Hi, today we're talking about corporate social responsibility, or CSR, and we're particularly privileged to talk to John Chambers, the CEO of Cisco. So thank you, John, for joining us.
Hey, it's been fun. We've been doing this together for 20 years.
Yes, we have. And, you know, CSR is really enabled by the CEO. It starts at the top, and you particularly have been very focused and committed to CSR. So I'd like to ask you a few questions that we can share with the general audience.
Only if I get to ask you some questions as well. So
Okay,
that's the deal.
fair.
It'll
That's
be fun.
fair. That's fair. So the first question is Jane Nelson, who is the Director of Corporate Social Responsibility at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, said that the greatest contribution of business to society is creating wealth. So I have two questions for you.
Okay.
One is, what do you think about that quote? And two is, how do you justify as the CEO of this company investing the significant amounts of not only money but also time and resources in CSR programs?
So if you think about it, Tae, I've always believed philosophically, both as a company and an individual, those that have been most successful owe an obligation to others to give back. What we are realizing, and what I've believed intuitively for 20 years, is that when you give back, it's also the right thing for business. And so when you look at companies that are very successful, their brand's very important to them, not only on how the customers view them that purchase from them, but also your ability to attract employees to your organization. I've probably had half of our largest customers in the world and half of the government leaders around the world say, one of the reasons that we do business with you is you really care. You make a difference. You give back. You don't just take. So the best way to grow the top line is also be fair about sharing the success of the company with the individuals in the countries where you're doing the business, with individuals around the world that are really making a difference. So first, it's the right thing to do. Secondly, it's just plain good business. And if you watch, Cisco's been one of the most successful financial success companies in history, and also one of the best in terms of corporate social responsibility. Cause and effect, I think 1-to-1.
I agree.
All right, now let me ask you a question. We've been doing it for 20 years. What do companies do right in the long run that really make CSR have lasting impact both within their organization and for the groups that they interface to?
So the way we approach it at Cisco is clearly the way we approach any of our business programs. One is we get a vision, a strategy, an execution plan, and we really drive that.
So we think about where do we want to be 3-5 years out, not just 1 month later.
Exactly, and what is the long-term impact that we want, because we don't approach it as a transaction.
Okay.
There are times where transactions are important, right? If there's a disaster,
Immediate relief.
Immediate relief, immediate transaction, but at the same time, I think what you've seen at Cisco is we're talking about what do we have to do immediately, but then what can we do to really help rebuild? And it's that long-term approach that is significant. We also put the right talent in place to put processes together and measurements and really measure against them. And the third thing is that we really look at the whole company. It's integrated. So when somebody comes on board and they have a specific subject matter expertise, they're not only the top talent in that area, but they really look at the implications and the impact of what they're building. So they build a solution for healthcare or education, and they understand the impact that it has, not just in the community where they live, but on the other side of the world. And I think that those are the things that really have enabled us to be able to come back to you and talk about accomplishments and what we need to do to continue to develop it. And that's the key to sustainability.
So when you think about it, Tae, either by brilliant leadership or by learning as we go from our mistakes, two things we've done remarkably well. We basically take a program and we think 3 to 5 years out.
Absolutely.
So whether it's the terrible Hurricane Katrina that hit the southern part of the United States, or focus on education in Jordan, or the conflict in Lebanon, or the earthquake in China, you find us there 3, 4, 5 years later. And you see us involved in really helping to change the lives of the people affected, but also even the country. And the second thing that we do is once we get a process down, we cookie cut it, we replicate in terms of the direction. All right, your turn.
So this is a question I get from a lot of different people. The employees ask me this, as well as my peers in the industry. Customers ask me this, and some of the public sector leaders I talk to, which is that you are a very busy man. And I've known you for 20 years, and I know how busy you are. You're in here in the middle of the night and work all night on telepresence, connecting with customers around the world, people people need you to be here to interface with customers who visit. You're overseeing big organizational changes, and yet you make the time to go places like, in Mississippi and Louisiana, to go to to Sichuan province where there was an earthquake. How do you find the time to do that? It would be so much easier just to write a check, and I know you do both personally and through the company in a very significant way. But why and how do you take the time to really invest in going personally and getting personally engaged in some of these, massive programs that we run?
Well, first, for all of you out there, both the Cisco family, but also many others watching from around the world, we encourage you to get involved. That can be either time or it can be financial, and we'll take that. But from a leadership point of view, I only have 4 jobs: vision and strategy of the company, development and recruitment of the team to implement that vision and strategy, culture, and communicate all the above. And communicate means be the example. Culture is such a huge part of who we are. And culture, when we focus on our customers, I need to lead by that. I need to be out with customers, listening to what we're doing right. Helping the sales organization sell, listen to things we have to change. Same thing is true on corporate social responsibility. People need you the most when you have a disaster or when they're in trouble. And yet that's very often when people hesitate about getting involved. So being involved both at the time that the disaster occurs to show that we're really committed, we'll be there for you, together we can deal with this, but also to be there 6 months, 12 months, 18 months later. The earthquake in Sichuan province, going back again and again, interfacing to the same young children that we saw that were so much affected by it, or in the amputee center, learning how people can really make a difference there, or watching an economic area recover, or young people's eyes light up when they say, because of the education, I now have a job, and here's what we can do together. So it's the right way to see what's going well and where you have to improve. It also sets the example for what each of us expect of our team. What else? Can I ask you one?
Sure.
Okay. What are the common success ingredients that organizations do in CSR, and at the same time, what are the common mistakes that they make? In other words, how do you build a process here? Because if it's transactional, it's just the individual who does it, the individual moves on, it drops. Common ingredients.
So the one common ingredient is, a long-term view. Are we in it or are we not in it? Because lots of times a transaction is important after a disaster, for instance, and those are important things. But it's also setting expectations appropriately and collaboratively with the community and with your partners about what you want to achieve together.
And what is each one's role
Every
in those expectations?
specific roles that they have, and agreeing that there are specific measurements that we would have regular updates, just like we do with products, product development. We don't, make a decision to do something significant and not meet regularly, not measure our success, not test it with the customer base, not come back and learn from our mistakes and not and employ the learnings into our process.
Okay.
But I think the other part of it is really looking at an environment where we are open about the challenges that we face, what do we do to improve the process, and understanding that there will be dips in the economy. And we've seen, in just our 20 years at Cisco.
We both started as young teenagers.
I was 12. You might have been 13. But we were young. But at the same time, as in a 20-year period, we've seen multiple economic ups and downs. And yet what we have committed to do is that in the same way that just because the economy isn't doing as well as it should, we still invest and innovate and look for ways to improve our solutions to our customers. And it's the same approach that we have in all of our social responsibility programs, whether it is around the community and society, improving our processes for governance and transparency, the significant work we're doing around the environment, as well as the most important piece, which is really working on programs for development of our employees.
It's interesting for the entire audience out there. Let me encourage you to learn more about corporate social responsibility. You can really make a difference, and it's the right thing to do for business, but it's also the right thing to do in life. View the corporate social responsibility reports. Get engaged. Many people don't get engaged, Tae, because they say, first, nobody I respected ever asked me, and secondly, I can't make a difference. You can make a huge difference, especially when we work together on it, and we are asking you to get engaged. Together, we can truly change the world.
Thank you, John.
Bring us back. Summarize it for us.
So the reality is that we have a really great opportunity. You know, we've been doing this for 20 years, as you say. We are a relatively young company, but we actually celebrate our 25-year anniversary this year. And as part of that process, what we really want to do is to get people even more engaged, because at Cisco we're never satisfied with successes of the past. We appreciate them, we're excited about them, but it's really moving forward. And as we move forward is to continue to watch the engagement and real partnerships, not just within Cisco and our teams here, but also with our customers and our partners, because we all are collective and collaborative stakeholders in the global community. I'd like to thank you, John, for taking the time to spend with us, because there's a lot of people who are very curious about what is your recipe and how have you been able to have a sustainable social responsibility program, you know, regardless of the ups and downs of the economy. And it's really because you've created an enabling environment, and it's not just you writing a check or signing off on things, it's you getting personally engaged. So I appreciate that.
But what I do best is get the leaders to implement it. Tae, awesome job by you and your entire team.
Thank you, John.
Get involved, make a difference.